Hey everyone, Damiani from Easy Allies here. So recently I got to go hands-on with Stormblood at the US media event, and I wanted to share sort of my observations and thoughts regarding the changes happening to White Mage in Stormblood. But I mean, as you probably can guess, there are a lot of changes happening to all the jobs in Stormblood. I made White Mage throughout Heaven's Ward during raid progression. I played Scholar during progression in A Realm Reborn. I never really got into Astro, though, but I always had an understanding of their tools and skills, as I was usually co-healing with an Astro. So suffice to say, I feel like I'm decently capable of analyzing the changes to the healers and how they primarily affect White Mage's place in the raid meta. And with the exception of A8S, which I had to clear with Echo, I have everything I've set out to clear, I actually cleared before Echo and nerfs. That includes A4S and A12S, not a big deal, but A4S, A3S, cleared both of those. All coil stuff. And basically, in a nutshell, many of the White Mage's raw healing tools, they got buffed. Some of the lower level DPS skills also got adjustments for the better, but it's what White Mages ultimately didn't get in terms of new skills. That is, better utility and tools to contribute to enhancing overall raid DPS. That kind of sticks out. They're basically losing two exclusive skills that will now be available to both Scholar and Astro. So it's easy to understand why White Mages, who got the short end of the stick when it came to pretty much hardcore progression raiding, like world first, server first, that type of stuff, and speed kills during Alexander the Creator, they're worried that their situation wouldn't improve. So there's some concern here. To be clear, White Mage is perfectly viable for clearing every bit of content in the game thus far. This is mostly speaking to their utility and their place in the endgame meta. If you have no interest in these things, then White Mage is just fine and there's nothing to see here. For anyone else, let's get into some of the details. And before going any further, please understand that any of the hard numbers I divulge, including potencies, especially potencies, are subject to change between now and early access for Stormblood, or even before then. So with that in mind, let's go over some of the changes to existing abilities first. So, Cure 1, the workhorse of the White Mage's abilities, is getting a potency increase from 400 to 450. Cure 2 is also getting a potency increase from 650 to 700, but the chance of proccing a reduced MP cost Cure 3 is gone. Medica 1 and 2 are unchanged, except that the 20% chance of Medica costing half MP is gone. They removed the enhanced Medica trait altogether. Benediction has had its recast time cut dramatically from 300 seconds to 180 seconds. So, big deal there. Most of these changes are for the better and enhance the raw healing power. Enhance the raw healing power of the White Mage. There were also changes to DPS abilities too. So Stone 2 potency is increased from 170 to 200, and the new Stone 4 move, which is also a single target GCD, has the highest potency of any healer GCD at 260. So that's pretty cool. A Size's recast timer has been reduced from 90 seconds to 60 seconds. So more DPS or more healing, and more often MP refresh happens more often potentially. However, Fluidor, while still producing the knockback and bind effects, no longer actually deals any damage. I don't get that one, but they did it. As for the White Mage's utilities, there's been some significant changes. They no longer exclusively have Shroud of Saints. The move has been altogether removed and replaced with a new level 24 roll action. Roll actions were previously known as cross-class or additional actions. This new level 24 roll action is called Lucid Dreaming. It's basically the same as Shroud, except the duration is increased from 15 to 21 seconds. And if you didn't catch it in the last live letter, just to clarify here, roll actions are shared abilities between certain groups of jobs. They basically put the jobs into categories like healers, tanks, DPS, casters, range. And you can pick up the 5 of these roll actions in total from like a pool of 10 or more, I think. I forget, it's 10 or 12. Other jobs can now use this ability. This ability being Lucid Dreaming, which was previously Shroud of Saints, which includes Astro and Scholar, which gives them an extra MP refresh tool and another way to shed aggro that was previously exclusive to White Mage. So Astro and Scholar already had their ways to regenerate MP. Now they have another one, whereas White Mage still has a size, and they can use it more often now, but it wasn't exclusive, so I mean, I think it kind of sucks, but that's that. Same thing's pretty much happening to Divine Seal, which is gone now and replaced by by a role action called Largesse, or Largesse. I don't know how to pronounce it. Largesse. While the duration of the effect is increased from 15 to 20 seconds, the recast timer increased from 60 to 90 seconds, and the healing magic potency buff is decreased from 30 to 20%. So another one that that Scholars and Astro can now use. They can now use that, but it's also been a little bit nerfed as well. So another exclusive tool that White Mage is losing. Kind of stinks. There is no more Stone Skin in the game for any job. Completely gone. It doesn't exist in the game anymore. Oh, I don't know if enemies can use it, but you can't use it. Protect can only be used by healers now, and is no longer a level 8 White Mage ability, but it is a level 16 roll action from that pool. Eye for an Eye's recast timer has been reduced from 180 to 120 seconds, but it can now only be used by healers as a roll action. Healers can no longer use Virus. You probably saw this in the live letter. There's that new ability. The Virus icon's purple now, and that replaces it. Other jobs like Black Mage and Summoner can use it now, but not healers. Asuna is no longer a level 18 ability, but a level 20 roll action for all all healers. There is no more 20% chance of no MP cost for it, though. Swiftcast is no longer locked at level 10 on a Thaumaturge. It is now a level 32 roll action that all healers and casters can use. Important distinction here. For future reference, Red Mage is being classified as a caster by the developers and in 14. Shortcast is no longer unlocked at level 8, but is a level 44 roll action that can be used by all healers and casters. Instead of having a 15% chance at an instant recast, using Swiftcast will nullify the effects of sleep, stun, knockback, and draw-in effects. This will be really useful if available in PvP. Just going to say that now. Also, it's basically can work like a Tempered Will in certain situations. That's going to be cool too. There's also a new role action unlocked at level 12 called Break, which deals unexpected damage with a potency of 50 and will inflict heavy plus 40% to the target. So you can see there's a lot of changes here. A lot of changes here. There have been some adjustment to White Mage traits, as well as a few new ones. Enhanced Mind is no longer unlocked at level 8, but level 20. The Mind increase from it is no longer 2, but 8. Enhanced Mind 2 is no longer level 24, but 40. Mind increase from it is no longer 6, but 16. And there's Enhanced Mind 3, which is now level 60, and it now increases Mind by 24. As stated earlier, Enhanced Medica is completely gone. During the live letter, Yoshi P discussed the new automatic upgrade and downgrading of certain skills, giving Stone as the example, which would help free up hotbar space for most players. White Mage unlocks an ability, a trait called Stone Mastery at level 18, which automatically upgrades Stone 1 to Stone 2. So that's what they're talking about. They get Stone Mastery 2 at level 54, which automatically upgrades Stone 2 to Stone 3. And they get Stone Mastery 3 at level 64, which automatically upgrades Stone 3 to Stone 4. White Mage also gets Arrow Mastery at level 46, which automatically upgrades Arrow to Arrow 2. That last one's important because once that trait goes into effect, Arrow is just ignored. It doesn't work anymore on your hotbar. It basically treats it as Arrow 2. That means White Mage can only actively apply Arrow 3 and Arrow 2 dots to targets, once they cross that threshold. So White Mage is going to lose a dot for like endgame stuff. However, Arrow 2 is now an instant cast, just like Arrow, so you get that benefit. Important to note real quick that I think Astral only has 1 dot now, and Scholar only has 2 now as well, because they lost Arrow and they get Miasma and Bio dots still. Anyway, the 2 other traits are tied to the White Mage's new mechanics and visual gauge. They unlock. You unlock Secret of the Lily at level 52. This trait grants a 20% chance that a lily, or a stack, is added to your gauge upon casting Cure 1 or Q2. Lilies will lower the recast time for Asylum, Divine Benison, more on that move in a moment, or Tetragrammaton, by a percentage corresponding to the number of lilies stacked at the time of action, and at which time all the lilies are removed. 1 lily reduces the cast time by 4%, 2 lilies by 10%, and 3 lilies by 20%. While this can definitely aid in emergency situations and recovery, it does potentially have some good DPS applications, because you can reduce a size's recast timer by up to 20%, or 12 seconds. A size is also an MP refresh, so it will allow White Mages to go harder on DPS and still get a more frequent injection of MP. Basically means if anyone who actually DPSs a lot as a White Mage in progression, you know how fast you burn through your MP. So this could be something to alleviate that. The only thing is that Lily stacks require healing for a chance to appear. They don't automatically appear, a chance to appear. During the hands-on session, it appeared that you also had to actually heal damage to trigger them. So you couldn't just like heal somebody who was topped off and try and cheese it like that. Which also brings up some interesting pre-pull strategies, as in, will people temporarily take off gear so that you can put it back on so you can heal them up? Will that work? Who knows? But you still have to do some healing here, so it's not just all like just DPS, DPS, DPS. Finally, there's Secret of the Lily 2 unlocked at level 68. Once activated, it grants a 20% chance at Asylum or a size. Recast time is reduced by 5 seconds upon healing critical HP with Cure 1 or Q2. While again, this still depends on White Mage's healing and dealing crit heal, no less, so RNG. This is another way to potentially reduce a size's recast time and output more DPS. So again, there's some, diving deeper into this, it seems like there's means to go a little bit more ham on DPS here and sustain it. You might have noticed the action Divine Benison mentioned earlier. It is one of the new abilities for White Mage unlocked at level 66. It is an instant cast ability with a 60-second recast that creates a barrier around a single target that will absorb damage totaling 15% of the target's max HP. This move costs lilies as well, as it says all of them are used up upon execution of the action. So White Mage has basically got a new shield tool, but this trait gives insight into this ability gives insight into the lily mechanic in general. To execute some of these abilities that use lilies, you'd want to burn a single lily once you got it, and not build up more and sit on those. As you said, this last one the shield one will consume up to 3, and doesn't seem to get any benefit from that other than the recast time. So you will basically get a faster recast if you have those, but otherwise you would be potentially wasting lilies if you're not planning it correctly. So some of the appealing benefits require you to build up more, as we just said, so it's kind of a risk-reward thing, and it means it doesn't exactly function like Scholar's Aether stacks. Not quite one-to-one, but still very similar. At level 62, White Mage gets an ability called Thin Air, which is an instant cast with a recast of 120 seconds that will reduce the MP cost of all spells to 0 for 12 seconds. That's nice. We talked about Stone 4 already with its potency of 260, so it's single target earth damage. Finally, there is Plenary Indulgence, the level 70 ability, which is a big AoE heal. With a recast of 15 seconds. It will restore HP of all nearby members with a potency that varies depending on something called confession stacks. According to the tooltip, there's a 20% chance that party members are granted a confession each time you heal their HP via Cure 1 and Cure 2, and the stack will last 30 seconds. The potency of this move, Plenary Indulgence, varies with current confession stacks at the time of use. So 1 confession stack on someone will result in a 400 potency heal, 2 confessions, 500 potency, and 3 confessions, 600 potency. So it's kind of interesting there. I don't know if that's going to involve a lot of like on the fly calculations or anything like that, or I'm not entirely sure because I didn't fully get to test out because in the dungeon we ran I had to play Paladin instead of healer, so I didn't get to really fully test it out and see if the stacks applied to you only, like you got stacks. This seems like it's party members have the different stacks, they each get healed by different amounts. Anyway, something that someone could maybe clarify on if you had a little bit more time with that to get it, to understand it. Anyway, there's also one more big change, not just for White Mage, but for all healers. In the live letter, and obviously at the preview event, we learned Cleric Stance is no longer a stance, but a cooldown healers can pop for a 5% increase to their magic attack magic potency for 15 seconds with a recast time of 90 seconds. It seemed like a huge blow to healer DPS at first, but it's important to remember that come Stormblood, healer DPS will be calculated based on mind instead of intelligence. We, as in I'm not, maybe one of you out there is, who knows, not sure of the full implications of these changes yet, but obviously it doesn't seem like it's as dire of a situation as initially thought. And then if you've watched the interview video that I did with Naoki Yoshida, the summary I go over, he said he expected overall healer DPS to be higher as a result of this change, not lower. So obviously, you're going to have to wait till people start crunching numbers and stuff to see what it really means and get more into theory crafting with all the tooltips finally available. But I think it's a safe bet to say your DPS will be higher than out of Cleric Stance DPSing currently in Heavensward. So how does this affect the raid meta for healers with all these changes? Well, it's important to note some of the other key changes and additions to the other healer jobs, Scholar and Astro. For starter, Scholar has this new level 66 ability called Change Stratagem. It's an instant cast with a recast of 90 seconds that increases the rate at which a target takes critical hits by 20% for 15 seconds. This is going to be a huge boost to the overall party DPS and makes Scholar extremely valuable in party comps. Aetherflow still restores MP despite speculation it wouldn't. You get Broil 2 with a 230 potency, but that's still less than Stone 4. But it seems to be more than the new Astro DPS tool, which I'll go over in just a sec. As for Astro, according to the tooltips I saw, the Ear Inspire effect, a single target still, but anyone within range of that will also be affected. Anyone within range of the target will also be affected. So it's already got the enhanced thing by default or something? I don't know. Again, I'm not the most familiar with utilizing Astro's abilities in terms of like that. I thought we had the Royal Road at first or something, or I don't know. But it said by default it does this, and I'm pretty sure it starts off as a single target effect. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this seems like a significant deal if this is true. The balance remains unchanged. They did not nerf it. Still the same everything on it. And Astro also gets Malefic 3, or Malefic 3, however you pronounce it. And while I didn't get to peek at that tooltip, I forgot I was about to do it, and then I got distracted by something else. I did get to see a video of Astro DPSing and using I'm calling it Malefic 3. If you pronounce it another way, I apologize. But they're using the new DPS ability, and the numbers, both the crit and with that new stat that the hit plus or whatever, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name at the moment, those numbers were on average lower than what I was seeing with Broil 2 and similar effects. And those were then lower than what Stone 4's numbers were outputting. So Stone 4 was outputting the highest DPS, Broil was second, and Astro's tool was last. However, despite all this, the apparent buff to some of the cards and the balance remaining unchanged is pretty much going to ensure that groups are going to want Astro in them for those party buffs. So what this means based on these early impressions, going over the tooltips, and what I'm going to guess is that the desired raid comp for higher-end groups is going to likely remain Astro and Scholar. And again, while White Mage will likely be perfectly fine in any comp aimed at clearing content in Stormblood at 4.0, it seems without a nerf to Scholar Astro that White Mage will be the odd job out for healing and progression and speed kills. Again, this is just my... real quick. Unless Omega does ungodly amounts of damage, don't think it was, then there might be an exception. But again, this is just my initial reaction and conclusions to all this. Once the game releases, who knows? Players might figure out stuff that changes the meta completely from what we expected. Again, we didn't have days with the game. We had a few hours to try and cover everything. And I tried to spend as much time with White Mage as I could, but I had to move on to other jobs. So it was not nearly enough time. So I guess take this with a grain of salt a little bit. But I mean, I will say this. As a diehard White Mage, thinking about these changes and what I saw, it's enough to convince me that I might need to reconsider my job role for raid progression in the upcoming tier in Omega. So, I mean, it doesn't, I don't know, does not seem initially like things got better for White Mage. But, you know, be sure to let me know if there's other information that comes out that can help clarify all this, or anything that I've said. Or if something is technically not right, or needs additional information, because with the floodgates open now, I just want accurate information out there, and I personally just want to know how viable White Mage is. So, you know, more advanced players, I look forward to seeing their videos and analysis, because part of me still hopes, you know, there's hope for White Mage. Something, you know, some miracle can happen. But, I mean, if you like this video, be sure to check out my interview with Naoki Yoshida and the Stormblood preview that we're putting up. And, you know, consider supporting us over at patreon.com/easyallies if you really like it. Anyway, see you all in Stormblood in just a few weeks. Later.